Welcome back to Empowered and Out, the career coaching podcast where we have real conversations about confidence, purpose, healing, resilience, and what it actually takes to show up fully as yourself in your career and in your life. I'm your host, Coach Jon, and this season we're diving into healing and resilience because let's be honest, life hasn't been lifing lately. Through real conversations and coaching centered insights, my goal is to help you reconnect with your confidence, trust yourself more, and start making career choices that support not just your success, but your well-being too. So take a breath, settle in, and let's get into today's conversation. So today's guest is someone who truly lives at the intersection of healing, identity, grief, and what it means to be human. Joining us today is Ken Breniman, a licensed clinical social worker, a psychedelic-assisted grief therapist, death doula, professor of thanatology, yoga therapist, and what he lovingly calls a budding primatologist. His work weaves together queer identity, grief literacy, mortality studies, contemplative practice, and even our relationship to other primates. Yes, we're going there. So Ken is also developing an independent documentary called Primates, Privilege, and Possibility, exploring our kinship with other apes and what that teaches us about humanity, care, and responsibility. This conversation goes deep, gets beautifully honest, and honestly, a little deliciously weird in the best way. So let's get into it. Ken, welcome to Empowered and Out.
Thanks for having me, Jon.
So before we jump in, I always do an energy check-in with my guests. And so on a scale from 1 to 10, what's your energy today and what's contributing to that number?
Ooh, that's a great question. Before I hit click and realized that we wouldn't be just a Zoom interface, I was probably around a 4. But then as soon as I saw your kind of psychedelically inspired rainbowy background and your smile, it jumped right to a 7 because I'm an empath, and so as soon as I can borrow from someone else's energy, it kind of goes out ups.
Awesome.
From a 4 to a 7 isn't too bad in a couple minutes, huh?
No, not bad at all. I would definitely say, yeah, I would say I'm right around an 8.
Yes,
And
nice,
it's
nice.
been kind of a long week. I was sharing you with some stuff that some good and some bad things that
Yeah.
happened that I learned from, and will be even better on the back end of it. But I always love coming and chatting with my guests. It's always fun to learn, and I know that the audience loves to learn, so I'm excited.
Loving, learning, and letting go is always kind of my 3 L's. So let's see where it goes.
All right. So you describe yourself as part therapist, part death doula, part primatologist, part yoga therapist, and honestly, love that little bit of chaos. So how did all of these pieces come together for you?
Wow. Well, I was just looking at some early childhood pictures around Mother's Day, and it was so fortuitous that someone had gotten one of those old, soon fading Kodak pictures. And there's me as probably a 4-year-old holding a big book. I could even look in, I could see it was like some kind of alphabet book. And I have a stuffed gorilla next to me, and I had
Oh,
it
how
all. I
funny.
cross-dressed my gorilla stuffed animal. He was wearing kind of like a red, white, and blue shirt. I had a cape on him, and he was plopped right there. I was like, I know who that kid was. And here in the ripe old age of 56, going on 57, that inner child is alive and well. And he's a pretty good guide in saying you need to do more of those things you used to do, because that's what keeps you engaged with yourself and others.
I love that. How did your queer identity shape the way that you approached healing work?
Well, maybe like a lot of us, I was definitely someone that kind of shoved it away and tried to
Uh-huh.
conform. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania and lived in the closet until I was 18. teen. And it was a very fun closet I lived in, right? I had the Barbie doll, I got the stuffed gorilla, like I had a great active imagination. But when I stepped outside, maybe that's why I can start at a lower energy and then pop right up to a higher energy, because that's a survival skill that we queer folk know how to do. So I think it's informed my healing by knowing that we all probably have different parts of us. And if we can be as holistically present with those parts, then we have a chance of surviving.
Yeah.
There's oodles of therapeutic models out there, like internal family systems. It's like, which parts of you are here? But I like to think of it more dynamic, way more kind of chimp-like playfulness. And we queer folk, we really are unique individuals in this sea of one species.
I like that. So, what point did you realize that you're
Mm.
definitely supposed to be doing this?
Well, yeah, it's funny. I conformed and I kind of put myself in a little box, and I went through college, and I did come out during that time, but I was like, no, the message from my family is if you're going to go to college, pick something that's going to make money. That's kind of what rural poor folk do. And so I did try to go down the road of being a corporate entity in the Japanese matrix. I worked for a corporation there. But as soon as I got employed there, wearing the tie and going to work, I worked for the HR department. I started, nudging like we need to do trainings on diversity. I came out during my 3 years in that corporation. I grew my hair out. I still wearing the tie, but I was like, I just couldn't conform no matter how hard I tried. And I chose one of the most kind of conformist kind of collective cultures possible to try and figure out who I was as a gay man. So I kept just rubbing up against the paradigm saying like, I just need to be true to myself. And people around me kind of see these transformations. And for some it's disarming, and for others it's inspiring. And I came back to the States after that and started pursuing social work. And that's where I knew to serve those that maybe don't have the resources to pay top dollar for therapy or go to a retreat or something. Like I worked in many different places where I got to again meet many people that were trying to come out themselves. And I just kept thinking like, yeah, this is the work. This is the work. And even today, as a practitioner, I mean, sliding scale and free services is still something I try to really align myself with. So I have free yoga that people can attend online. I'm always trying to figure out a way that everyone is welcome at the table. That's kind of my healing modality, my healing journey.
That's so wonderful. And it is funny because even looking back, my parents, they pushed both my sister and I to go to college,
Hmm.
and they wanted us to get a degree, but they never pushed us into a specific field, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because my dad was a medical doctor. He went to med school. He did all that crazy long time of schooling and everything, but he never pushed it on me, and he didn't push it on my sister. And I thought, looking back now, in some ways, I don't know. I kind of feel like,
Mm.
could you have pushed me in some direction? I mean, I guess in some ways he did, because I really got into photography in high school and I
Yeah.
loved photography. I took a couple classes, and I even had my teacher who happened to be an amateur photographer, and he was really impressed on some of the photos I had taken. He's like, "Oh, what'd you do to do this?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just took it." I was like, I focused, I did this setting, and boom. Because back then, back in the late 80s, it was manual to everything.
Yes.
It wasn't such a computerized device like cameras are now. So everything was very specifically chosen to get us, an image in a certain way. And for me,
Mm.
I don't know, I just loved being behind the camera, which is funny because it did, now looking years later, when I first started, like I was telling you offline, is that I started this is my third podcast. And
Mhm.
my first one was 100% just recording audio, because I was like, I don't want to be in front of the camera. That's
Ah,
just like, I enjoy, because I took back, for my photography days, I was like, I really loved being able to capture what I want, and share the message in the way based on that medium,
right.
and being able to share it that way. But I mean, funny thing is, I learned through just the way podcasting itself has kind of expanded and grown. I mean, now I have a YouTube channel. I'm like,
Mhm.
I post
Mhm.
video, this video all the time. I don't always still love it,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, I know that it's where I need to be. And what I'm supposed to be doing. And the fact that this kind of coincides and really partners very well with my coaching, that I knew that people want, and you know this, people have to have that know, like, and trust factor with you
Yes.
before they're going to hire you. Well, it's a lot easier to get a know, like, and trust on someone you can see compared to someone you just hear a voice on.
Right, right, right.
So,
We're visual creatures, and no,
yeah.
you just shared a lot, and I love sitting with hosts that share a lot because I think what happens is we got two parallel origin stories here, and your parents they didn't push you one direction, they pushed you towards something, and you had to figure it out, right? Like that's really powerful. A lot of I know several medical friends who are like doctors who were encouraged to become doctors because that was in their family lineage. And at the same time, right, they're it either fits who they are, their persona, or it doesn't. And that is kind of the lifelong learning piece. Like who knew you'd be a podcaster and kind of a healer and a coach modality? Just like
Yeah.
I didn't know, unless I look at that childhood picture, that I would be doing traveling around the world singing, offering singing bowls to primates and the staff that take care of them. Like, who knew? There's not really a certification for that, but it's still something that really enriches me. And when I circle back and sit with clients, it really makes me feel, I guess, not only empowered as a healer, but humbled as a human to be like, whoa, we are so freaking interconnected.
Oh, yes.
We all got to go out and kind of honor our true colors.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. And honestly, through this blessing that I have to be doing this podcast, I have the opportunity to literally talk to people all over the world. And it's a great way to also get clients that way too,
Yeah.
because there is no disconnect on being able to connect with someone now. Because like you and I, like for those who are just listening, Ken and I can see each other. We're like video, like this is recorded, so we can actually see each other. And Ken's in the Bay Area. I'm in Colorado. Like we're not even in the same state, and yet we can create this. And then I get to the opportunity to spread it out to the masses all over the world. And so, which is still, I still pinch myself because it's just so amazing. But
Well, and again, you'll either help me translate this if it makes sense to you, but there's this phrase, there's this concept that people can't even research, but it's called the Akashic records, and it's pre-yoga. It's like it goes so far back, but I think of it when someone goes, "What is an Akashic record?" It's like this warehouse. I'll call it the Costco of all ideas, concepts, that, and like I think our generation is doing its part of like bringing all those ideas forward, right? Like we're not just sitting watching 60
yeah,
minutes. You're creating something that's akin to 60 minutes. And
yeah,
we're not just waiting for the newspaper to arrive. We're writing articles that can instantly appear on, like I write for Brains magazine in Sweden. I'm like, whoa, I get to like send that, and 3 days later, the world can look at something that I just reported back from Uganda and Louisiana. So it is so magical what we're able to do. And it does help me stay hopeful for kind of like the uncertainty that oftentimes we sit with kind of the human evolution.
yeah, I would agree. I feel that we grew up in the right time because I feel like now technology, digital stuff, everything, it's kind of a little sometimes overwhelming that I still to this day am like, I remember when we didn't have a phone that we did, or
Mhm.
well, I remember when we had phones that were literally just connected to the wall. And then we got
Yep.
the wireless, like we got the hands free, like, you could, which was a mess at the beginning because you would
Mhm.
cross lines and everything was crazy. And then we get cell phones back when they were just phones
Yeah,
before now. And then now it's a little mini computer. It can do everything. You can do so much on it. I mean,
right.
honestly, if I wanted to, I'm not going to because I find it kind of annoying, but I could actually even record this podcast, our conversation on my phone on the
That's true.
Riverside app.
Sure.
And
Oh,
it's
wow.
just like,
Well,
no, I like the comfort of my home,
mhm.
sitting in my office in my chair in the comfort, it's just more comfortable. I don't want to be in a car. I mean, I guess technically if I was traveling and I couldn't bring all of my equipment, whatever, like my microphone, whatever, I guess I could technically record through my phone, but
Yeah.
probably not. I'd
Well,
probably postpone.
And I'll flag this part of our conversation if we get to talking about apes and tool use. We may not get to that, but it's interesting to think of how many tools we have available to us, and how to wisely choose them as tools of conveying good messages, healing, well-being. It is a pretty interesting time to be alive. And as the
Yeah.
futuristic sci-fi dystopian future that has a happy ending writer says, is like, this technology might allow us to call our relatives that we ship to Mars someday. It might just be part of what we do. We stay connected to them, even we don't want them here on the same planet.
Never know.
I
All
see an
right.
eyebrow go up.
So, in the information you had sent me initially when we first started chat, when we first got connected, you mentioned growing up feeling like you were in the wrong body, not necessarily
Mm,
transgender, but almost like the wrong species. And that's such a powerful statement. Can you
thank you.
talk more about that experience? Because, yeah, I mean, obviously we're humans, we're Homo sapiens, but yeah, to be something, feeling like you're not in the right, you know, body.
Yeah. And I gotta say to the audience that even though you and I are just meeting, we've kind of prepared for this. It is so intuitive that you want to go there right away because, well, Pride is coming up.
Yes.
I am going to write an article for Brains about this sort of idea. Well, it's not an idea. It's been with me since I was born. It's like, oh, I just am in the wrong place and in the wrong body. And, you know, I don't think that I'm trying to champion trans species as another color on a flag. But when I hear young kids, they're playing dog, they're playing cat, they're playing with their animal spirits. And at this ripe old age, it's like it's time for me to be like, well, if I'm putting all this time and energy to travel around the world to get to know apes, it's not just about me honoring Jane Goodall's passing. It's something deep inside. And I just don't, if you coach me for months, I'd probably have more articulate words than this. But like all I know is when I get to be sort of the one that like wants to bend the rules or use the tools differently, like all I can think is that's like very like primal chimpanzee behavior. I'm kind of the disobedient one. I might fit in a picture of looking like, oh, I'm just, I'm that rule following person that worked in Japan. But I get in there and all I want to do is figure out the rules so I can bend them. And if you look at primates in captivity, like that essence is exactly what I feel. So trans species, I tried to look up. There aren't many books on it. There's a couple of songs out there. People have written songs about their experiences. I've
Hmm.
only found a couple of podcasts about it. But I think it's because we instantly, as soon as we name something that's unfamiliar, I think our human psyche kind of wants to put it somewhere somehow.
Oh, yeah,
So,
for sure.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. So the best I can do is kind of own who I am and write about it and then see if that inspires other people to do the same for themselves. I do remember this isn't about trans species, but I would write articles in Japan and it was interesting because the influx of young teens that then wrote to this publishing company about their own question of their sexuality, that like my friend showed me the uptick of the number of letters they were then getting. So it just is about us helping other people, if we get kind of harsh about it, like stay alive long enough to know who they are and then figure out how they can be in the world and like you and I, how to serve the world. Yeah. Not everyone has the
Nice.
platform that Jane Goodall had, and she
Right.
loved dogs more than she loved chimps. But I think she was very much more of an animal human than a human human. She just had the tools and the platform and the words to say, like, "Hey, everybody, look at what I can do. What can you do?" So,
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about queer resilience.
yeah.
Because obviously, I mean, this season is honestly all about healing and resilience. And so it makes sense that we talk about it. So, in your experience, what makes LGBTQ plus people especially skilled at surviving hard things? And where do we still struggle most?
Great question. Well, I would probably answer the two-part question the same way that what I think is important for us to do is remember our ancestors and not just our biological straight lineage, but the Harvey Milks, the Audre
Mhm.
Lordes, the James Baldwins, the Keith Harings. Give me a couple more that you might kind of resonate with. But I mean, there,
I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but yeah.
well, but I think when we look to what they struggled with, right? Some of them had a
Mhm.
bullet to their head. Some of them died from a disease that didn't have treatment at the time. So there is struggle, but we also look at their stories for resilience. And then we have to look at ourselves as we are making history just by showing up. So
Mhm.
how is that part of the resilience movement? No, I do think movements tend to oscillate between everyone listen to me and like I think we maybe push too hard in a certain way, but I think when it's queer joy and resilience, we just show up and we show up in our colors, we show up in our communities. Like, gosh, how can you hate on that? And I think one of the ways that I have put pen to paper or compute tip fingertips to computers is like, I just want to write about the dark thoughts that we all have and transmute that into light. And that is Ocean Vuong is one of those writers right now. I'm drawing a blank on the modern day folks, but like there's so many people out there showing up and speaking their truth. And I think that's the stone soup of queer resilience.
Oh, for sure. And I feel that I love when I came up with this, for this season to talk about it because we're all going through something and we've all gone through something, especially, I feel like even more so as being part of the queer community. I feel like we're all, a lot of times we're like, we have a mask up, we have a shell, we're
Yes.
hiding, we're not being our authentic self. And then when we finally are able, sometimes if we get to do it our own way, which is probably little tiny steps,
Mm-hmm.
where others, as we know, have been kind of forced out by either someone outing someone, whatever that might be. And I feel that, I mean, I'm glad that I got to come out of my own way. And I don't know how I would have reacted had it been the opposite way. Like if I had been like forced out.
I see.
Because
Right.
I feel that I got to choose my supportive queer family around me before I came out. I knew that I had that support, that if I got pushback from family and friends, that I knew that I still had people I could go back to and get support from until things potentially got better. And in the end, it was humorous what I
Mm.
heard from some people when I came out because I mean, my best friend, love her to death. We're still friends today after, I'm 52. We became friends when we were 4 years old and we've been friends ever since.
Mhm.
And, I mean, outside of my family, she's the one person I've had in my life, pretty much almost my entire life. But she was like, I already knew you were gay. She goes, I was
Sure,
just
but
waiting. She goes, I was just waiting for you to be comfortable in your skin to be able to share it.
and that's what a true friend does, right? Kind of
Yeah.
hold space for us. Right. I had a few of those anticlimactic coming outs too. They're like, yeah, I was just waiting for you to say it. But I'm also glad that none of those people did forcefully try to rip open the chrysalis and try to drag out the butterfly before we were ready to be
Yeah.
butterflies. Yeah, there's something really magical and touching about the allies that we might think of throughout our lives too, that they actually were maybe a few steps ahead of us while we were figuring out ourselves. Because it takes a lot of psychic energy to make sense of who we are, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you have all these, I mean, especially like just children in general, we have all these feelings, we have all these questions. We don't know. And depending on how potentially maybe, I mean, children obviously very simplistic, but if they start asking a question and mom and dad might not want to really answer that question
Right.
because they're like, oh no, they're asking this question.
Right.
But in reality, they should be answering that question
Yeah.
because it's going to give, I mean, depending on the age of the child, it's going to give them a little bit more clarity and
Mhm.
they can go, okay, because you might have this all of a sudden attraction, like you and I, we might have attraction to boys or men, and we don't know why we have that attraction, or vice versa. Our good old heterosexual ally, they have attraction to the opposite sex, and they just have it, and
Right.
I never had that attraction
Right.
ever,
Right.
ever. I didn't even. I mean, I was literally forced to kiss a girl back in the day, and I didn't like it. I was like, ew. And then the
I
first time
kissed
I
a
kissed
girl
a
and I
boy,
didn't like it.
I did not like it. And then the first time I kissed a boy, I was like, all right, I actually like this. This is
Right.
nice. So I feel that I'm going to be curious to see, as my sister is raising her daughter, excuse me, how now my sister is very open and welcoming of like very inclusive to everybody. I mean, it probably helps that she works in Hollywood because there's everybody around her, everybody,
Yeah.
queer, straight, whatever, they're all around. And so I feel that, and I'm very thankful that she did move out to California, away from the Midwest when you're growing up in Kansas City, that she got to see that more diversity, to see that more inclusiveness, to see there are different people out there, and to
Yeah.
accept people for who they are. Like kids are simple. They love everyone. They like everyone. They don't have a question. They don't hate until they're taught to hate. Like we're taught to hate people and to judge
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
And I think that's what helps. I don't feel like we hate anyone inside the queer community. We may not understand. Like
Well,
there are people who might, I mean,
I want to pause there because I think when we toss around that word hate, we also have to look at what we're taught to hate
true.
some
Yeah.
part of ourself. And once that kind of precancerous energy is within the body, it can ruin a life, and it can ruin a society.
Yeah.
It can crush a civilization. I mean, hate is the cancer,
Yeah.
and there are so many covariants of it. But we also know the cure to it is we just keep finding ways to love on those parts that really weren't loved. I don't know what the current stats are. I just know that suicide is increasing in certain populations. I don't know about the LGBT community, but I know if I talk to friends and family and also read my old journals, the urge not to be here is so strong, right? To love that part that doesn't want to be here is a
Mm-hmm.
lifelong challenge. And that's why, like, I'm glad you step forward and not just want to coach, but you want to show up and share
Yeah.
space, because then we're reminding everyone else, like, there's probably that small part of you that still feels small. Well, let's grow that.
For
So
sure.
that
Yeah.
your sister in Hollywood is doing that with her kids, and you get to be the funkle or the gunkle that kind of keeps an eye on 'em. That is already like community opportunity for that not to repeat itself.
100%. Yeah. I love it. I mean,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
feel that sometimes when we have acting like a hate or we're discriminatory, when other people are discriminatory towards, we mentioned, like, for instance, like the trans community, a lot of it is because we don't understand. We haven't educated ourselves.
Yeah, I wonder how many people will sit around with me after this article comes out or they see this. They're like, tell me about your lifelong journey and putting this label on yourself in your mid 50s. And no, I'm going to reserve the right to say, like, I don't want that tattooed on my forehead, but I do want to be able
Yeah.
to name it and practice it and feel into it. And that is the love story of the generations for each of us to find a way to love ourselves more. And yeah, I'm just loving that you are I don't know, so solid in your offering as a podcaster and a coach that, like, that's happening in your world and it's happening in my world. But I guess I'll say one more thing. I've lived long enough to live in Japan where it was not okay to come out. And now I've lived long enough to live in a country where I thought it was safe to come out. And now, actually, simply put, the, those countries have changed places. Japan's on the brink of having same-sex marriage okayed. I go into small town Japan with my elder host mother from high school, and she takes me to the bookstore and says, I'm so glad they finally have this section of books available for people like you. She doesn't understand it,
Nice.
but she
Yeah.
cares, right? And so that's the ebb and flow that you and I have to navigate as healers and space holders.
For sure. And honestly, one of my biggest educational and learning for me especially with this podcast is bringing on people who are different than me. I
Hmm.
love, and I'm going to continue to do it, especially through, the next month being Pride Month. I want to bring on every unique and different queer person to come on, because to let people know we're not all the same. Don't
Yeah.
label us that we're all the same, because we're not. we're just as unique and as different, which I love, but that's how we were designed to be.
Mhm.
We're not robots. You and I joked about AI earlier before we started recording. We're not a robot. We're not a, we're unique and different in our own skin, and that's how we're supposed to be. We
Yeah.
were, we were, we were designed that way. I mean, prime animal, they're all different. Animals are different. Like we're all different, even though they might look the same. They could
Mhm.
potentially look more than
My 2
humans,
little Shih
obviously.
Tzus over here, they're probably siblings, but their personalities are worlds
Mm.
apart. They still have the same basic needs, but whoa, just to sit with how unique
Yeah.
each sentient being is. And circling back to your question about queer resilience and queer joy, like that, I think that's it. We remind each other that we don't have to be the same.
Yeah. And so to go a little bit more, so what do you think queer people need more of right now? Because we're living in a
Mm,
very unique time right now,
yeah.
especially professionally and emotionally.
Ah, yeah. Well, I think I'm gonna do a really, really like time promo. I think people need to read more. And really stop, not stop. So I don't like I I notice that we are so quick to say, "Hey, John, you should watch season 2 of such and such." And I think that's almost traumatizing because there's too much to choose from, right? So
Yes.
I think pulling back and remembering how imaginative this thing is what we need more. To be bombarded by endless amounts of edutainment is actually kind of dulls our senses. I think us being able to be the creative artists and bring something forward is where the juice is. Even if it's just a quick journal and they write a little acrostic poem, their favorite word, and they write the letters down and they just write out. Like I've seen many people just really overcome anxiety, depression, not wanting to socialize just by learning to be with themselves a little bit more. And I
Yes.
won't hold it up. It's not a book, but I also think like I'm gonna go to this after we're done, is like sensory deprivation tanks. Those are like pretty darn amazing. But even just a walk in the woods without one's phone and like, setting down these tools, like I think that's what we need more professionally and personally. Um,
I agree 100%. I know that, well, first of all, you made a really good point. Like, we need to make time for ourselves away from the technology, away from the devices, because I have to say, it's very calming and very peaceful. Like, even just, I can say there are times where I might wake up before my partner in the mornings, or
mhm.
even in the evenings after he's gone to bed. I will just sit in that peace, in that quiet, turning off a television, turning off any device, and just sitting there, because I feel that there's so much noise.
So much noise.
So much noise. It's incredible how rather obnoxious it can be. But even being in nature is also another thing. Like, I explained a story to someone the other day where there's a favorite spot that I love to go in the mountains here. And the first time I got to experience it, I honestly thought I actually went deaf because it was so
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
And
Silence can be deafening.
I was like, wait, how is this possible? Because we were probably 30, 40 feet where all these tourists were, and we were just away from it enough.
Mhm.
We were right on the top of a peak of a mountain, like kind of near a peak of a mountain. And it was just silent. And
Yeah.
I got to look around and see the beauty of all these mountains and the
Mhm.
peaks, and yet hear silence. And I was
Yeah.
like, everyone needs to experience this. Oh my goodness
Yes.
gracious.
Yeah.
Because you really realize we're around so much noise all the time. I mean, there are times that even when I'm driving, if I
Mhm.
drive in the car, I'll turn off everything and just
Right.
drive in silence. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have a chance to, as the Apple computer says, you put the computer to sleep, but I say shut it all the way down because then something really amazing happens with this supercomputer between our ears. And, at first it's probably like, the silence is deafening, but then it gets to actually that universal, everyone should experience this, right? Your heart
yes.
just opens up into that. And I don't think it's easy. I mean, it took me a month in the Borneo rainforest. I was carrying two phones. One's the phone that connects to the world. The other's my I could have all my apps on it. So I have two phones in the rainforest. But guess what the rainforest does to those two phones? Hits it with humidity, makes me put them in these little rice bags for days. And I was like, I don't have either phone and I'm freaking out. I can't do my Instagram posts. I can't write my little like journal ideas. And guess what? Then the sounds of the rainforest or the sounds of a car, right? Like any of those places, those have a life all themselves. And that, I think, is another thing we queer people, who in many cultures were called the two-spirited healers, like that is what I think we are coming into in this generation. People are waking up to their own superpowers, and I can't wait to see what the next generation does with the path that we've tried to make for ourselves. And we
Oh
just
yeah, for
hand it
sure.
off to
Yeah.
them and go for it, X-Men.
All right. So you work around death, grief, and mortality, and that's fascinating. What do you think so many people avoid? Why do you think people, and I love this because
Hmm.
after working in, the death industry, I can say this. I definitely have my opinion, but why do you think so many people avoid talking about death, even though it's one guarantee that we all share? It's all going to
Right.
happen. We can't get away from it.
Well, again, it's a PSA that's going to answer your question, but this is a prototype, not the actual one. I have a series of books coming out, children's books.
Ooh.
This is not the real illustrations at all, but it's all about a young child that dreams of death and the mom freaking out, right? And so there's a lot of education here, like, well, we come into the world wondering and curious about life and the unseen. What happens when we as adults choose what? Curiosity over fear. I think being able to sit with someone who's dying is a true gift. And it's also one of the hardest things a fellow mortal can do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right. And so when it's even just grief, it's almost like a small part of us, maybe a big part of us, feels like it's died. And we have to grieve a loss that's either relational or planetary or ancestral. There's all kinds of loss that we kind of sit with. But that does also, just like silencing the devices, it takes time. And time is a true gift. I think in our society today, we're so quick to just flick past it and try to get to the next thing. But I think our soul remembers some things that eventually need to be, you know, cared for and addressed.
Well, I think it's interesting because when we're younger, it's all about
Mhm.
getting older. We want to get older. We want to get,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, oh yeah, I can't wait till, well, of course, like when I was get to be legal and to be 21, I get to drink and all stuff. And I get to do this and I get to do this. And then it's like, and now looking at, I mean, you and I were both in our 50s is like, wow, we're in
Yeah.
our 50s.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, wow, can I go back to like my teens or my 20s, but maybe go a little bit slower and really enjoying, like, kind of used to not, I've embraced the acronym. I used to find it annoying. Like the acronym YOLO, you only live once. I
Hmm.
feel that, or FOMO, fear of missing out. I
Right.
feel that at least for me, as I've gotten older, I tend to now take a step back wherever I'm at and really embrace what I'm a part of at that
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
Because, and especially even with my niece, like I only get to see her grow up once.
That's
I
right.
don't, and we don't get to go back. We're not Benjamin Button. We don't go from older to younger.
Mm.
So even though some people try
Mhm.
to make themselves attempt to look younger,
Right.
but I feel that the more I don't know how you can tell someone who's younger, enjoy life. You don't
Right.
need to be like so rushed to get older. And I think
Right.
because we have all the experiences we have, in my opinion, for a reason. Things happen for a reason
Mhm.
that we're having these experiences, and that I guess if we want to have them rushed, through our life, I guess it's okay. But I do feel that for me personally, like literally relationally, like when I saw and was on right next to, my father's deathbed and literally watching him pass,
Mhm.
you really, I really took a step back and go, okay, what can I do now for the rest of my
You're
life
now.
to make things,
Right.
yeah, in the now, and to make things,
Right.
good for me. And so that I really am fully living my life.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I mentioned this to someone yesterday, I said, I don't personally think that we should be able to watch our parents die in front of us. But I
Mm-mm.
also don't feel like we should ever see, as parents, see your children pass in front of you, like
Yeah.
to pass away before you do. But on the flip side of that, I also feel that I learned a lot. when my
Mhm.
dad was passing. And thanks, and that's because of talking to my boss who had seen her grandmother and her mother pass away. And so I learned little things about little signs of when you can see when someone is
Sure.
ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's attuning. And no, you got me to admit that I might have some animal spirit in me, which I know there's a lot. And the one thing you didn't ask me about is that I have been teaching naked yoga for over 20 years. And one of the beautiful things about being in my 50s, I started in my 30s, is that we have this sort of spin out group, and we call them elder in training. And anyone of any age can agree that they're an elder in training. But when we frame something as an invitation to celebrate that you got some wisdom, I got some wisdom, that 20-year-old that wants to be an elder in training, he got some wisdom, like all of us get to then sit together with it. And it's beautiful because my class has people in their 20s, and I think the older guys are in their 70s, and we circle up, and the 20-year-olds can do back bends and back flips, and then the other guys are putting their legs up the wall. I was like, this is rare and precious, and I wish more of the world could have that. Peel off the layers, look at my wrinkles, look at my muscles, look at my and just sit with it. We're not only unique individuals, but we're all aging. And that's a reality that some people would rather not deal with. Right?
Yeah,
But I think it
exactly.
is, what's the gay version of The Substance? I know there's one out there now, actually, but anyways.
Wow, that was a powerful movie, by the way. Woo.
But yeah, you're really I'm so glad that you brought in your father into this story. Maybe you talk about him in other podcast episodes too, but, like, I think when we name not just our immediate ancestors, but who's teaching us along the way, then that gives us something to work with in the now.
For sure. So, how does becoming more comfortable with
Mhm.
mortality actually improve how we live? And we kind of touched a little bit on it, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I say to my clients nowadays, because they have to walk through, they see my logo, Mindfully Mortal. I mean, they're going to work with me. They know it's in the room. So, I mean, these are my nuanced words, not everyone else's, but I'm like, death is our co-therapist here, right? And I've worked with someone that's lost their father, and now recently I learned that their elder dog passed away. And we're not working on the same grief, but over the course of 7 years of knowing this person, like, a new grief has shown up, and that gets
uh-huh.
them in touch with he wants to be the best parent ever because that's not what he got. And I don't think he could do that without the losses that he's confronted. He can visualize the saying goodbye to his kids going off to college, or he does these visualizations, and they don't threaten or scare him. They actually help him step back in to being more of a vibrant father
Nice.
and husband, and like so. I get to do that with straight people too. Yay! Mortality is something we all have to sit with.
Yeah, it's across the board. And I do agree with you. I think it is a little bit different when you lose like a pet
Yep.
compared to, a family member because yes, you've spent a lot of time potentially with that pet, but like I don't have the same grief when my sister lost her dog of 14 years. I don't have that same grief because it wasn't my dog. I did get to experience his joy and his quirkiness. She's the one who spent the day in and day out with him, but it's still a different mortality. It's still a different experience because of how we all, her, my sister, and my mom, and I experienced with my dad passing because we were right there. So I feel it's a little bit different with pets, and it can be because well, I guess technically you can do this now too with humans. But they typically take the pet, you know, to put them down unless they
No,
pass
I
away.
a lot of people will invite the vet to come into their homes. At least, I mean, that's they have these mobile vets.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I think there's so many ways that we can reconnect with the death and dying process, not because it's morbid and scary, but rather it's a part of life. My experience in Japanese funerals is that you sit a long, long time, your legs fall asleep, you try to stand up, say goodbye, then you actually put fruit and flowers in the casket with the body, nail it shut, and then carry it out. And only the immediate family then goes to the crematory, but it's very hands-on. And right, for
Wow.
us, it's kind of pretty it up, get it away, and let's move on. I mean, that's
Yeah.
my family of origins approach. And I'm like, can we stay with this a little while longer? I'm a
Yeah.
weirdo. I think me and Wednesday Adams would get along just fine.
So, what has working with grief taught you about purpose?
That it is about finding who we are in this finite amount of time and coming together with, I just tossed a bunch of labels on myself that I might want to peel off later. But I think like it's almost like a complementary duality, which is find out who you are and let impermanence be your ally. And it, let it change, let it grow. If I said you're never going to be a podcaster, you'd be like, well, just watch me, I am. So I say, you're not going to go around the world dropping off singing bowls so that primate caregivers can practice with them with their apes. Like, watch me, I'm going to keep doing it. Like, there's no stopping us when we get to know who we are and what our powers are. But it's also
Exactly.
in a blip, it will be over.
Yeah. So, do you think your relationship with death has made you less afraid or
Oh
just
yeah.
differently aware?
Um, I think I think I'm a very brave, audacious individual, and I think that's because I know who my ally is, that I know who's gonna greet me at the end of this, and I get to know it through dreams and psychedelic journeys and sitting with other people. Like, it's not there to hurt us or harm us, it's just there waiting to hold us. There's a super short nonverbal video out there, and it's just this deer and death, and the deer's life, and it's like a love affair, and the death is protecting it the whole time until death turns, or sorry, the deer turns to an elder deer and says, okay, now it's my time. It's a Scandinavian 2-minute film, but I send it to all of my clients and say, like, please watch this, let's talk about this.
I like that. All right. So, you mentioned psychedelics helped save your life.
Mm,
How did that
yeah.
healing process teach you that traditional therapy alone couldn't?
Yeah. Well, I was a social worker, not licensed at the time when I went for my first ayahuasca journey, and in a big circle with mostly queer men. But what's interesting is my individual experience in this room full of people. There's wailers, there's pukers, there's quiet people, there's singers. I'm sitting there, and it was kind of like a Christmas carol. This unseen entity took me, I don't know, by the hand, or I couldn't actually see it, but like showed me in so many ways, me sitting as a 17-year-old with my dying mom and just watching this play out. And my resistance to seeing that final scene with my mom had just closed down all those years. And so was it 10 years later, I opened that up and I became one of the criers in the room. I was just like, oh my gosh. But the crying wasn't grief so much as we did the best we could, huh? Like I was just infused with so much forgiveness and acceptance that I couldn't experience there. And I mean, one journey with ayahuasca opened that up. And then, of course, I work with a therapist to make sense of that. And the rest of it has been kind of adding on to my understanding of who I am, how I came into the world, not being necessarily a wanted or understood child, and be like, I don't need to like dwell in that. I just have to accept that that's my origin story. So I think psychedelics have freed me from a story that I kept telling myself and frees me to have a different story altogether.
Nice. What do you think that most people misunderstand about
Mm.
psychedelic healing?
Well, what's happening right now, John, is just like we're in these little boxes. I think Western medicine and our Western paradigm is trying to put it into pills and trying to, like, I even heard they're trying to find a synthetic type of plant medicine that doesn't have the hallucinogenic part. And I was like, what? That part of tinkering with chemistry, good luck with that. But you're losing out on, this is a plant that people cared for, grew, loved on, sang to, cooked for 10 days. There's all this loving stuff that goes into it. And then it gets to be served by the facilitator. Like, wow, I wouldn't trade that for the world. But we ain't got time for that. Give me a pill and get on with it. No, I don't doubt that we'll see synthetic psychedelics that are kind of like colonized by big pharmacy. It breaks my heart that that will probably be the way that Western medicine will take it. But I know that there's those of us in the underground and above ground that say, let's honor this indigenous wisdom without colonizing it and learn from it, and then figure out a way that we can slow things down enough so what I call true healing can happen. I mean, I didn't go into that ayahuasca journey thinking, show me a Christmas carol and let me meet my mom. I really just
Yeah.
set an intention that I think most people can do, is like, show me what I'm ready to see. Like, don't tell the teacher what you're ready to learn. Be like, what can I be open to? And I still struggle with that. But it's like, what can I be open to? Because obviously, these little molecules from these plants, they have a lot to teach us. But we're humans. We got it figured out. We know what's in those plants. We know the chemistry. I'd like to reserve a little space for mystery.
I would agree. I feel that we're getting so big about just pop a pill for this, pop a pill for this, do this, do that. And it's like,
I
you should.
counted the other day, John. I was watching TV, which was kind of rare. Commercials came on. Of the 5 commercials that my YouTube thing showed, I think 2 of them were medications that were treatment for side effects of other medications. Anyways, back to you.
Wow. Well, and I will admit, we don't see a lot of commercials like when we watch TV because we stream and we watch a lot of like we've paid to not have the ads. But then I realized, then when all of a sudden when we do see regular television, I feel like today has become a point where it's all about the GLP-1s. It's all about people taking it's like, and it can be different. And you're not just seeing it on TV. I can see it through my phone. I can just be on, like, for instance, like Instagram or TikTok, and it's like GLP-1, GLP. I'm like, going, okay, did I ask for this to come into my feed? Not
Yeah.
really. It's
Yeah.
like it's fascinating, but it's just, no, I want to be like, I came on to, because sometimes for me, when I like to decompress, I go and watch the goofy, weird stuff on like Instagram or TikTok on whatever to decompress. I watch the goofy things to make me laugh, to go,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Yes.
And then I have to see a drug commercial, like a drug ad. I'm like, I didn't want to see a drug ad. Now,
And
I don't think at this point, nor am I going to pay probably any extra money to get that out of my feed, but I'm just putting it out there, universe. I don't want to see any more GLP.
right, right.
Devices, listen to me. Stop like having that come into my feed.
Watch out. There's going to be a pharmaceutical company that says, John, we want you to be your
Sponsor.
sponsor.
I mean, no.
I love your comic side too, and you're right. I mean, that is the other part of queer resilience, and like we need to laugh at ourselves because I only stepped away from my sabbatical in March, and I came back, and I was like, my life and this society definitely has a laugh track. It sometimes there's tears coming down my cheeks, but you gotta find kind of the levity and
Oh my
and
goodness.
and the light.
Yes. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your sabbatical.
Okay.
Especially because I mean, learning about it before you went on, and I learned a little bit from our mutual connection, Joe, who connected us,
Yeah.
because he had told me, oh, he's about to go on a sabbatical. You might not be able to connect until I'm like, that's fine. I'm excited to connect anyway. So, and obviously here we
Yeah.
are. So you worked around orangutans and conservation. What did that experience teach you about humans by watching other primates?
Yeah. Well, to wash down all of the PSAs about pharmaceuticals, I'd say if you're interested in looking for these types of kind of off the beaten path, like Project Borneo is a top-notch volunteer organization, and they place you in places where you might want to go in Borneo and other places in Southeast Asia. Amazing. And of all the great apes, I will say this is the orangutans are the ones that are probably closest to extinction. And we are seeing, I think The Guardian just had, like, there are so many articles showing up of like what humans are trying to do to save them, and they're just ruining it. Just, I
Hmm.
mean, one orangutan needs so much space in a rainforest, and we just encroach upon that. It messes with the whole species. But what I learned about humans there, especially the Iban families and the forestry workers, Iban is a local indigenous people there. They're so connected to the earth, and they're so committed to saving the remaining rainforest that like to be invited in. I got to take my singing bowls into some of the families' homes and do sound baths, and they taught me how to dance like them. And I didn't do it very well, but like it was such a great cultural exchange. I got to be exchange student at this ripe old age, and I just learned that community is there. The teenagers, I think there's a 17-year-old that had a phone. You know, the elders all have their phones, but they set them down and they gather. Like there's a
Mm.
time and a place for technology to step in, and there's a time and a place to remember where you're from. And you know, if you know the origin of the word, I think it's more Indonesian word, but orangutan is man of the forest. And Disney has a great documentary out now that's very sweet, very kid friendly. And it speaks to this like, wow, the ancient humans actually go like, that's just another man over there. That's another human, or not a human, that's another humanoid. And like
Yeah.
they related to them with great reverence. And now I think of them as I watch with the fellow humans, like I do think of them as like orange furred monks that just sit in the tree for long periods of time. And you know, they'll pick up this coconut that we've lovingly woven into a burlap sacks to enrich them. It takes them a while, but they'll like contemplate our stitches. I do have some YouTube pictures of an orangutan looking at my book, tasting it. He never tore it apart. Sometimes looking upside down, but flipping the pages, setting it down. Like there's so much intentionality in their movements that it's just like the humans that are closest to them also seem to have similar intentionality. And so even though I'm talking pretty like exuberantly, like more chimp like, orangutans and the people that care for them, there's kind of this presence. And wow, it was a joy to have 30 days of that.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Did stepping away from,
Mm.
normal life shift your understanding of
Uh,
burnout?
yeah, yeah. I think Joan Halifax calls it empathic distress as opposed to compassion fatigue, as opposed to burnout. They're all the same. But I think as someone that feels a lot, my empathy became depleted and worn out. And so coming back, I really have to notice that and think like a primate or even a sloth, like how many hours do they just rest and stay still? I don't think I can work the 8 hours a day. Some days I might do the loving things I do for 12 hours a day. But I think to avoid further empathic distress for me, it is to not try to work at the pace of this kind of, I don't know, inhumane gerbil wheel that we're on. And so I have to purposely slow it down sometimes because I'm like, I want to get another book out. I want, I, wa- I want to do this, but I also know, right after this, I will get acupuncture from a friend. I'll go to a float tank. I like, Saturday's going to be this kind of like loving on Ken day, and when people think I have it all figured out, I said I wish there could be a Ken cam, and they follow me around for half a day because I ain't got figured out at all. Like there's so much that it's still like, learning to not
Well,
care too much or do too
mhm.
much.
Well, and I think the people that say they have it all figured out, they're
Oh,
lying
no. Oh, no. No, no, no,
because
no.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think that the rainforest
Mm.
taught you and can teach us that modern life keeps making us forget?
Yeah. I'm gonna do a 30-second walk through it. We went on a night hike. You'd think you'd be scared because you know how many poisonous creatures, including snakes that do randomly drop from the trees. You're walking with a guide. He sits you in the middle of the forest where there could be fire ants, centipedes, scorpions, tarantulas, anything has venom. And he's like, turn off your lights. And we sat there. And we said, close your eyes. And maybe for a minute. And they said, open your eyes. And we were in the real Avatar world. It is not as brilliant as what James Cameron produces. It is this green bioluminescence that glows in so many, inanimate and animate beings there. It's like, whoa, the fungi is glowing. The fireflies are there year round for an East Coaster. That blew my
Wow.
mind. And so what it taught me
I
is
miss fireflies, by the way. We don't
I
have them here.
know. Yeah. You do have them or don't?
No, we
No.
don't. And
No.
I love that as a kid, seeing fireflies
Yes.
all the time. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, yeah.
Yeah. So this
Anyway,
this
yeah.
sense of, well, no, but that ecosystem that's intact, and then seven humans who are terrified of getting bit by a centipede, we're sitting there for a moment, it's like we're guests here. And how do we tread so lightly and learn from that interconnectedness? And I'll say it early in case, happy Interdependence Day to everyone on the 4th of July. That's my new greeting. But we are so interconnected. And the moment we forget that, right, I think that that's just, I got to go away and be reminded of it. And I try to take myself back into that web of life and be like, well, we're webbing here from Colorado to California. However, we're doing this international webbing from human to human, but there's a lot more to this earth than just the human realm. And that's what I felt I learned. Thank you
Awesome. I
for
love
letting me walk through that, because I'm sitting back in how powerful it was to be surrounded by life-threatening entities that actually didn't do us any harm.
I love that. The rainforest has always blew my mind of
Mm,
like, because I mean, my minor in college was environmental studies, and just
yeah.
learning about the environment and rainforests and how special that part area is and how much we need it. And when you've had companies come in and destroy it, and not, it's like, but do you understand how powerful this area is? Like,
Mhm.
we need this so badly. And I think it would just be, for me personally, I mean, I would love the experience to be able to see that, just because, and experience it,
Mhm.
because I think that, first off, I think it's good to get away from our, modern life,
Yes.
to be able to kind of, it's why personally why I love when we go up into the mountains here and we go camping and
Yeah.
stuff, and I love where the point that our phones don't work anymore, because we've
Good.
gone above the tree line, or we've gone away from where anything can and it's wonderful. And I
Mhm.
love it. And then just be able to sit back and enjoy nature and hearing the sounds, and hearing, because you don't hear the sounds of the cars and the else, you just hear nature. You hear all these creatures making all these different noises, and they're just communicating. They're
Yeah.
just doing communicating
Mhm.
like we do on a daily basis, but in their way. And it's
Yes.
just
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I want to make my ringtone the sound, the war call and the mating call of gibbons. If you've never heard a set of gibbons just call off as a sunrise, it is magical. You can find it on YouTube or even on Spotify, but they just go bloop 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 bloop, and then there's this. It gets so deafeningly loud, and you're like, what are these ploops coming from these cute little apes that would tear your head off in a moment, or monkeys? And they're like, "Oh, shoot, that is such a beautiful wake up call to the whole rainforest."
Awesome.
I hope the next time you go to the mountains, you get to hear crickets or owls or whatever nature call when nature calls. Answer.
All right. Well, so Ken, we've been deep, we've been real, a little mildly unhinged, but in the best way. But now I love, this is my favorite part of my podcast with my guests. Every time I have do this, I love this. It's my rapid fire question time. So,
Like speed
um,
dating. Get ready.
yeah.
I might hold my monkey then. Sorry, it is an ape. I've been chastised for playfully misnaming my puppets.
All right. So, and these are all for fun, just have fun with it. If you could have dinner
Mhm.
with Jane Goodall, Mr. Rogers, and Stephen King, who starts the weirdest conversation?
I'd let Fred Rogers start it. I'd like to get him weird first.
I like that. Fascinating man, by the way. I remember watching like documentary on him. It was so fascinating. He was, yeah. Anyway, all right. You're stranded in the jungle, 48
Mm.
hours. What three things are you absolutely bringing?
A really good book, lots of electrolyte liquids, and my singing bowl. I would have my singing bowl.
All right. All right. So let's be honest. Which primate do you think
Mm.
best represents your personality?
I've wanted to be a bonobo because of their. I'm definitely a chimpanzee because I know how to go to war when we need to in all the best ways and stand up for the right things. So sorry, bonobos, I choose chimps.
Okay, so I have to ask because I don't know. What's a bonobo?
Bonobos are these, we used to think of them similar like chimpanzees, but they're actually smaller in the Congo, and they're matriarch led. So the females go, no, 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 we're not going to fight. We're going to groom, right? We're going
Okay.
to really take care of each other through sharing and reconciliation. Little known is about whether they fight and tear each other up. But chimpanzees, well, they'll be like, I'm going to tear up this other thing to show how great I am. Like, woo, that's an edge that the bonobos don't seem to have.
Okay. I learned something new. That's the whole,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Pa-
again, like you and I chat.
Patriarchy and matriarchy. I mean, that's
Yeah,
kind of the archetypes.
very nice. Okay, if your life had a warning label printed on it, what would
Mm.
it say?
I guess do not feed the animals.
I like that. Very fitting.
Yeah.
Okay, and last question, last rapid fire question. What's your most unexpectedly woo-woo habit that people would be surprised by?
My partner is now on board, but every night I light a small amount of incense, and I merges Japanese Shintoism with what my host family in Japan used to do. I want I want to go to bed smelling incense so that I can dream about my ancestors.
Well, that's beautiful. I like that. I really do. I like that. That's beautiful.
You're gonna make me cry in the last rapid fire question. But it's maybe not the woo wooiest, but it's the most kind of like it merges so much of who I am, and then I get to go to bed knowing that no, they're there waiting for me.
All right. So Ken,
Ooh.
what's one, this is a real question. So
Okay.
no, to really kind of round up like everything we've talked about today. What's one practice, mindset shift, or small
Mm.
intentional action then that can help someone reconnect with themselves when they feel overwhelmed by the noise of the world, disconnected from meaning, or unsure how to move forward for those listeners today?
I can't sell or create time. I think any one of us can even take 3 minutes, right? Just 3 minutes. And if I can get you to do five, great. If I can get you to do 10, great. But even a 3 minute, close your eyes, let your body rest, even if you can't lay down, and you just breathe in, and you can do a Mr. Rogers like, hello, feet, hello, legs, hello, internal organs, hello, brain. Like you can just greet it with the most kind of like, it could be a beautiful day in your neighborhood type of feel. I think that that's what I would, it's 3 minutes. You can take 3 minutes out.
If
And
you
it does.
can't,
It resets the parasympathetic. You're no longer
yeah.
in fight flight mode. You then have a fighting chance of knowing what you need to do for the body, how tired it might be. You get a lot of downloads just from those 3 minutes.
And personally, I feel like if you don't think you can, you need to make a point to make it because it's kind of amazing. 3 minutes can go by really fast, though.
Yeah.
I mean, even I remember when I used to think, 30, well, obviously 30 seconds, a minute, it goes by fast. But even when doing something, even for like 5 minutes, when you're thinking and you're doing like I mean, I know a lot of people like, mindset stuff or like even meditation type stuff. And you're like, wow, that went really fast.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I've
Yes.
done, like, even, like, a 30-minute, like, a meditation, I was like, "That was 30?" Like, that went by so fast. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
wow, but it's just like but in the in and then but honestly, after it, it's like, "Well, that was awesome." Like, that was
Mhm.
so needed,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the biggest thing that I, of course, teach my clients is the mindset thing. You have to be the meditation, the mindset, you have to a lot of times we have to reset our mind. We have to get it into the right space. Two, and like in my case with my clients, for interviewing, for finding a job,
Yeah.
to even just help yourself focus on what do you want to do? What's your purpose? Where do you want to
Mhm.
be? Where do you see yourself 5, 10, 15 years from now? Like,
Right.
where are you going to do something that's going to help make a difference? Or are
Yeah.
you just going to be a worker, be in a corporate work, in the corporate
Right.
world?
Right. Right.
You and I obviously chose the first one and not the worker bee.
And we don't have
And
to
the
unpack the closet thing, but, like, I think what we then learn from a young age, if we're not encouraged, like a Fred Rogers type of person in your life, like, we are taught these really negative things that we say to ourselves. And when we can dislodge that, and we may not even turn it down, but we can turn up the volume of "Hello, feet. Oh, thank you, feet." Like, I mean, we can bring that forward.
Yes.
I think we have a chance of like then neutralizing the more inner critic part.
I agree 100%. Well, Ken, this has been an amazing conversation. Honestly, I am going to definitely go back and re-listen to this. I know this for a fact. I really do believe we probably could talk for hours, honestly. And I know this just because we could just keep talking and talking and talking about everything that we've shared and even more.
Mm.
And I again, Joe, thank you for
Yes,
connecting
thank
us.
you
I
so
mean,
much, Joe.
100% because I feel blessed that I've actually gotten to have Joe even twice on my podcast. The
Yes.
first time I thought was awesome, and the second time it blew my mind. And I was like, because we were both, the funny thing is, he said he wasn't really in the right space. There was a lot going on in the first time. And he said, this time I'm ready, I'm set. And to me, 100% proven because the conversation was a different conversation. We were present, we were there, we were ready to share. And I loved it. And I know that you brought your full self into this conversation. I know this because you even asked me last night. You sent a message like, "Okay, what do I need to do? Can you give me
Yeah.
some help to like prepare?" And I'm like, "Just come with an open
Yeah.
mind. Like, just be ready." And I
You
think
gave me no
that's
homework, so
yes,
I visited the ancestors, and they said, "This is what you do."
I love it.
Mm,
So, from queer resilience to mortality, psychedelics, burnout, primates, purpose, and what it means to actually be human, this conversation reminds us that healing isn't linear and
mm-mm.
purpose often lives in the places that we're most afraid to look. So, thank you for bringing your honesty, your wisdom, and your beautiful weirdness to the show.
Thank you for bringing tears to my eyes.
I
Mm.
think it's kind of my goal now. I feel like I need to try to see how many guests I can make bring tears to their eyes.
Oh, yes, yes.
You're now number 3, by the way.
That's my favorite number.
And for everyone listening, if something in today's episode hit home for you, if you've been feeling disconnected, you've been feeling burned out, stuck, or like you're craving more purpose and confidence in your life and career, that's exactly the work that we do here. I help professionals rediscover their purpose, rebuild confidence, and create careers that actually align with who they are, not who they were told to be. You can book a free call with me. Just the link is in the show notes. And of course, if this episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it because we're doing things differently. We're elevating, we're expanding, we're healing, and we're prospering together. I will see you next time on Empowered and Out.